Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Balaba Girivanadari. Gopi Jana Balaba Girivanadari. Yasodanana Braja Janaranjana. Yasodanana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tirha Vanacharya. Yamuna Tirha Vanacharya. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Balaba Girivanadari. Gopi Jana Balaba Girivanadari. Yasodanana Braja Janaranjana. Yasodanana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tirha Vanacharya. Yamuna Tirha Vanacharya. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Prabhudakacharya Asatara Siddha Shri Shiman. His Divine Grace Shri Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Raj Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Kor Premanande Haribal Bhaktam Slavi Guru Shri Garangi. Chaksura Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Scha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Hrijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Visakan Svitam Scha Hey Krishna Karna Sindhu Dinabando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishubhanu Sudha Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakapa Trubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patiranam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Pranitananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 8, Prayers by Queen Kunti, text number 36. Shinvanti Gayanti Grinanti Abhikshana Smaranti Nandanti Tavehitam Jana Tadeva Pashantya Chirena Tavakam Bhava Pravaho Paramam Padambujam Shinvanti Gayanti Grinanti Abhikshana Smaranti Nandanti Tavehitam Jana Tadeva Pashantya Chirena Tavakam Bhava Pravaho Paramam Padambujam Shinvanti Gayanti Grananti Bhikshana Smaranti Nandanti Tavehitam Jana Tadeva Pashantya Chirena Tavakam Bhava Pravaho Paramam Padambujam Nanti Gayanti Grinanti Bhikshana Smaranti Nandanti Tavehitam Jana Tadeva Pashantya Chirena Tavakam Bhava Pravaho Paramam Padambujam. Ladies, Shinvanti Gayanti Grinanti Abhikshana Smaranti Nandanti Tavehitam Jana Tadeva Pashantya Chirena Tavakam Bhava Pravaho Paramam Padambujam. Shinvanti, hear. Gayanti, chant. Grinanti, take. Abhikshnashaha, continuously. Smaranti, remember. Nandanti, take pleasure. Tava, your. Ihitam, activities. Jana, people in general. Te, they. Eva, certainly. Pashanti, can see. Acharena, very soon. Tavakam, your. Bhava Pravaha, the current of rebirth. Uparamam, succession. Para Ambujam, lotus feet. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. O Krishna, those who continuously hear, chant, and repeat your transcendental activities or take pleasure in others doing so, certainly see your lotus feet, which alone can stop the repetition of birth and death. Purport. The Supreme Lord Sri Krishna cannot be seen by our present conditional vision. In order to see him, one has to change his present vision by developing a different condition of life full of spontaneous love of God. Head. When Sri Krishna was personally present on the face of the globe, not everyone could see him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Materialists like Ravana, Hiranyakashipu, Kamsa, Jarasandha, and Shishupal were highly qualified personalities by acquisition of material assets, but they were unable to appreciate the presence of the Lord. Therefore, even though the Lord may be present before our eyes, it is not possible to see him unless we have the necessary vision. This necessary qualification is developed by the process of devotional service only, beginning with hearing about the Lord from the right sources. The Bhagavad Gita is one of the popular literatures which are generally heard, chanted, repeated, etc. by the people in general. But in spite of such hearing, etc., sometimes it is experienced that the performer of such devotional service does not see the Lord eye to eye. The reason is that the first item, Shravana, is very important. If hearing is from the right sources, it acts very quickly. Generally, people hear from unauthorized persons. Such unauthorized persons may be very learned by academic qualifications, but because they do not follow the principles of devotional service, hearing from them becomes a sheer waste of time. Sometimes the texts are interpreted fashionably to suit their own purposes. Therefore, first, one should select a competent and bona fide speaker and then hear from him. When the hearing process is perfect and complete, the other processes become automatically perfect in their own way. There are different transcendental activities of the Lord, and each and every one of them is competent to bestow the desired result, provided the hearing process is perfect. In the Bhagavatam, the activities of the Lord begin from his dealings with the Pandavas. There are many pastimes of the Lord in connection with his dealings with the Asuras and others. In the 10th canto, the sublime dealings with his conjugal associates, the gopis, as well as with his married wives at Dwarka, are mentioned. Since the Lord is absolute, there is no difference in the transcendental nature of each and every dealing of the Lord. But sometimes people in an unauthorized hearing process take more interest in hearing about his dealings with the gopis. Such an inclination indicates the lusty feelings of the hearer, so a bona fide speaker of the dealings of the Lord never indulges in such hearings. One must hear about the Lord from the very beginning, as in the Srimad Bhagavatam or any other scriptures, and that will help the hearer attain perfection by progressive development. One should not therefore consider that his dealings with the Pandavas are less important than his dealings with the gopis. We must always remember that the Lord is always transcendental to all mundane attachment. In all the above-mentioned dealings of the Lord, he is the hero in all circumstances, and hearing about him or about his devotees or combatants is conducive to spiritual life. It is said that the Vedas and Puranas, etc., are all made to revive our lost relation with him. Hearing of all these scriptures is essential. Text again. Trinvanti gayanti grananti abhikshnasa smaranti nandanti tevehitam jana taeva pashanti acharena tavakam bhava prabha ho paramam padambujam. O Krishna, those who continuously hear, chant, and repeat your transcendental activities, or take pleasure in others doing so, certainly see your lotus feet, which alone can stop the repetition of birth and death. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Vacharane Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskyadyade Satarane. As it mentions here, Krishna is absolute, and therefore Krishna does not appear simply if someone says his name before that person. One has to chant the holy name in such a way as to want Krishna to appear. If one doesn't believe that Krishna exists, then Krishna will not appear and disappoint them. Nor will Krishna appear in any way. In other words, for one who chants Hare Krishna without following the disciple succession in Nama Parad, then one will not get any effect from chanting Hare Krishna except that one's aparads will increase. In other words, if we want to awaken our devotion to Krishna, we have to awaken it in relationship to the devotees who already have awakened their relation with Krishna. We can't understand Krishna by himself. We have to understand Krishna in his relationship to his devotees, because that's when we can actually experience how the devotees are experiencing Krishna's wonderful qualities, just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come, for three principal reasons. One is that he wanted to experience, as Srimati Radharani experiences, Krishna's wonderful qualities. Are you translating?
No, we have different arrangements.
Oh, okay. Someone is translating for her online?
She's recording and she will get it through Google Translate.
Oh, okay. Google translates words also?
Looks like it, yeah. What did you show me?
Okay. So, Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has appeared. He wants to experience how Srimati Radharani experiences the wonderful qualities of Krishna and the love that Srimati Radharani has for Krishna and the love that Krishna has for Srimati Radharani. So in other words, it's not just Krishna, it's the reciprocation of Krishna with his devotees that helps us become Krishna conscious. And we can only understand that if someone is hearing from actually who's at least a devotee, or repeating the words of a devotee, or aspiring to become a devotee, to some degree or another, we'll get some benefit. And if we hear from a non-devotee who hasn't heard in disciple succession, then they'll understand nothing. As a matter of fact, as it says, milk touched by the lips of a serpent has poisonous effects. So if we hear from, the worst thing is to hear from a non-devotee who's envious of Krishna, about Krishna. Because will actually imbibe the same envious attitudes towards Krishna as the person who's envious of Krishna has. Therefore, we don't take anything from a non-devotee. We don't even, if we eat their food, we'll get their consciousness too. Therefore, probably didn't want us to buy bread from the store, especially grains, because when people are cooking grains, of course we may say, well, it's all done automatically, so we'll acquire the consciousness of a machine. Next birth, we'll take birth as a computer and IV. At least our memory will increase. Therefore, in the Nectar of Devotion, there are 5 different types of bhava that are mentioned, beginning with vibhava. Vibhava means, and there's 2 different aspects of vibhava. There is Krishna as the Ashraya and the Anupam. Ashraya means vibhava, that Krishna is the Ashraya, and then there is the, what is the other one? The Ashraya and the, what's that? No. Anyhow, one is the reservoir, the Ashraya for love for Krishna, and the other is that Krishna is the object of that love. And then there's Udapan, which is the qualities that one experience that awakens one's love for Krishna. So if one is unaware of these things, that there's a Shraya, and Shraya means a reservoir, and the Vishaya, the object. In other words, unless we're in contact with someone who has a Shraya, who has some reservoir of love for Krishna, where are we going to get the love for Krishna? If you go to a lake and it's all dried up, and you want to get water from it, it's not going to be very easy. You're going to have to dig quite deeply. On the other hand, if you go to a lake full of water, clear, fresh water, then it's very easy to get the water from there. So one has to find an Ashraya for love for Krishna, who has Vishaya. Krishna is the object of that love. Then in the service, if one remembers the name, form, quality, and pastimes of Krishna and his devotees, under the guidance of such a personality, who's gotten, where did he get the reservoir from? He got it from someone else. He got it from his spiritual master, who got it from his spiritual master. And the hearing and chanting about Krishna, the eternal pastimes, ultimately comes from Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is the foundation. This is where it's stemming from. That these books are the unlimited reservoir of pleasure. And of course, depends upon how receptive we are when we hear. First of all, how much do we, we can't artificially just have faith, but how much faith do we have will also depend upon how much we concentrate on what's being here. If we think, well, I'm going to sit here in class and I'm going to get the same old experience, and I'm lucky if I don't fall asleep, or maybe I am lucky if I fall asleep. Then it's going to be very difficult to pay any attention. And of course we can pay attention in the sense that I'm going to pay attention right now. I'm going to listen very carefully. And I'm going to put everything into it. I don't expect any bliss or knowledge from it, but anyhow, I'm going to pay attention. No, if we're actually in a good mood, in a happy, transcendental mood, and our heart is expecting something wonderful. We're actually trying to understand and listen, and as Prabhupada said, we chant Hare Krishna, and then try to feel Krishna's presence. So if we try to feel Krishna's presence, then obviously we're not going to be distracted by trying to experience so many other things. So to hear about Krishna, at least try to understand what's being said, and then try to enter into it. In other words, if we understand what is being said, then we should be able to relate it to our experiences in this lifetime, at least. If something we can't relate to our experience, it means we haven't really realized very much about it. And what's being explained is supposed to be within our experience. In other words, right now we're looking around and everyone has a different body, and everyone has a different mind, everyone has a different conception of life. And at least when we hear, if we understand basic principles like samam sarveshu bhuteshu tishtantam parameshwaram vinasha vinashantam yak pashyati sapashyati samam pashyanti sarvatra samavasti timishwaram ehenastyatmanatmanam tato yati param gatim. So this much we should hear from someone who's understood it, at least for some extent, that one who can understand, one who can see, samam sarveshu bhuteshu, that in every body there is a soul, and there's also a super soul. And that neither the soul nor the super soul within the destructible body is ever destroyed. So notice Krishna started out with explaining how our bodies are changing, but we're not changing. But he didn't leave it that. Now he says our bodies are changing, but we're not changing, but there's another person with us, the super soul. So if we understand there's another person called the super soul, and he's always with us in this destructible body, then maybe we'll actually start thinking, well, whatever I'm doing, someone's watching me, and I'm going to get a result from it. Now I can get so many varieties of results that are possible in this world. Gop Kumara, he got results. He went from one body to the next, from one elevating body to the next by chanting Hare Krišna, following Krishna's directions. He became a king on this planet. He became the emperor of Jagannath Puri. He became Indra. He went to Maharloka and did sacrifices there. He went to Tapaloka and meditated on Krishna. He went to Brahmaloka and became Brahma. He went through the coverings of the universe, all by chanting Hare Krišna, taking shelter of Krishna, getting more and more Krishna's shelter, desiring more and more elevated positions, merging Brahman, going to Shiva Loka, Mahashiva Loka, going to Vaikuntha, to Ayodhya with Lord Ramachandra, going to Dwarka with Dwarkadish, and finally going to Goloka Vrindavan, progressing. So it wasn't by accident, it's because Krishna is with us all the time. And he puts us in different places according to what we deserve, what we desire. And if we think it's all by my prowess or by my arrangement, and there's no one else, therefore Krishna says that adishtanam tata karata, karanam cha pritag vidam, vividas cha pritag chesta, daivam chaivatma panchamam. There are 5 causes for the accomplishment of any kind of activity, such as adishtanam, the body. So we need a body to do something. Adishtanam tata karta, and then there's the soul, who's considered to be the doer. But his doing is not directly in the material world, it's by desire. We can't do anything without Krishna, without the material energy. Our desires don't go anywhere. First of all, we can't. There's no such thing as being without Krishna. We can't escape Krishna's presence. There's no place in either the spiritual world or the material world where Krishna doesn't exist. He's everywhere. And all we can do is deny his existence, and then, according to our association, then people are emanating their desires. Their very words are emanating their desires. If you hear people singing, like some rock star singing, his actually words are just emanating lust, anger, and greed. They're just pervading the whole atmosphere. And therefore it's no surprise that the people in the audience are becoming more and more lusty, angry, and greedy. If you go to a seminar, how to make millions of dollars, then the whole atmosphere is permeated with greed. And if you're there, then your ears are just soaking in the greed. Just empowering you to go out and do business, cheat people, sell products, useless products, so you can become rich and so-called happy. So it is not that when we come to the Hare Krishna temple and we hear about Krishna, or we put on music about Krishna or lectures, whatever, that it doesn't really matter. It's all kind of like one. It's not going to have so much of an effect. I can just do whatever I want, do a little take a little bit from here, a little bit from, and it's all, it's kind of like a fruit salad. Just mix it all together. Yeah, it's mixing it all together. A little poison here, a little purity there. And just mix it all up and throw it through our ears, and we go, wow, what's going on here? Why am I not making any advancement? Why am I sometimes up and then because prakriti purusham chaiva, no. Purusha prakriti stohi punkte prakriti jangunam karna guna sangosya sad asad yoni janmisu. The living entities are carrying their different conceptions of life. That's not right either. Purusha prakriti. Thus, the living entity is passing in this body in different Purusha prakriti stohi, trying to enjoy the material energy. This is due to his association with the material nature, and thus he mixes with both good and evil amongst the various species. So, Sangha, according to our association, but it's not like all association is equal. No, every moment we have an opportunity to associate. Now we can sit in class here, and someone says, Samam sarveshu bhuteshu, and we're out somewhere else in the material world. Hopefully in Brahmaloka rather than with the Yamadutas in some planet down there. So we're associating principally with the mind. The body we bring here, just so we can also bring the mind and the intelligence, because that's where we get principal association. Because if you go to a bar here in Slovenia, don't expect to hear and chant about Krishna there. And unless you bring some really good earplugs, don't expect not to get affected by it. And then you got to stop your nose, because your nose will remind you of so many different experiences too. And you have to close your eyes, because everything you look at will actually carry the modes of nature. And therefore we're getting affected by everything. Our sight, our taste, our smell, our hearing, our sense of touch, everything is putting us in a certain type of consciousness in one of the modes or transcendental. It's not by mistake that we have all these pictures here. And that it's suggested that it's a good idea to chant in the temple. Because even our minds start wandering, they just can't help but wander to one of the pictures of Krishna. And Krishna and his pictures are non-different. Of course, if we go to Tivoli Park and walk around, there's probably less opportunity to see something which is going to disturb our mind. At least it's the mode of goodness, and it may be that we can chant and remember Krishna internally. So one who conceives the super soul coming to all souls and all bodies, knows that neither the soul nor the super soul within the destructible body is ever destroyed, he's actually seeing. So when we don't remember that, we're not seeing. We're seeing through our imagination. We think we're seeing, but we're not really seeing what's actually going on. And one who sees the soul, the super soul, accompanying all bodies, and equal everywhere, does not degrade himself by his mind, thus he approaches the transcendental destination. So we're looking around, we're trying to control people. We think we're going to be the controllers. But actually it's the super soul that's controlling everyone, equally, fulfilling their desires. We can influence people by trying to somehow or another convey some kind of mode of material nature that people might become attracted to, some kind of conception of life that people may be attracted to, something that people may become attracted to. And therefore, if they accept our offering, they get the same mode of material nature or the same spiritual nature that we get. So we try to influence people in different ways. Otherwise, by the desire of the soul, he can convey lust, he can convey anger. Because when usually people are emanating anger and frustration, people go, yeah, that's right, stay over there, I'll see you later. enjoy your anger, you know. Lust, people are more usually attracted. Oh, he's really, you know, let's enjoy, so-called enjoy. And then, of course, it turns into anger. And, you know, we enjoy together now. Please step over there, and I'll see you some other lifetime. I think you're cooked enough, and you're fried. So that's the material energy. People are trying to enjoy lust, and it turns into greed, and the greed just can't be satisfied, so it turns into frustration. And when people are frustrated, we put them off to the side and say, I'll see you later. And their hearts are broken. We sing songs of separation and brokenheartedness. And everyone says, yes, I appreciate that. So that's material existence. And spiritual existence is the same thing. Singing about hankering for Krishna and lamenting the fact that we don't have him. But people are actually aware of Krishna, who actually have some feelings for Krishna, have experienced how wonderful Krishna is, his unlimited qualities, achintya swarup, yamshaima sundaram, achintya swarup, achintya guna swarupam, his unlimited wonderful qualities. And that's why they're hankering for Krishna. So that's the type of association we want to hear from, because maybe we can imbibe a little bit of that quality of realizing how wonderful Krishna is, how wonderful Krishna's devotees are, and actually develop a little desire to obtain him, or at least a little desire to come and see the deities, or to do some service, or to take prasadam. Something, a desire. So this idea that I'm not going to hear from devotees, and especially devotees who are in line in the disciplic succession of the acharyas, what to speak of hearing from Prabhupada directly, and I'm going to make some progress in devotional service, somehow or another I'm going to develop a desire to attain Krishna, it's simply an imagination. There's no reality to it. And if we don't try to attain Krishna, then automatically we're going to associate with materialists, with material sound vibrations. Hopefully in goodness, we don't sink into the bottom of material existence during Kali Yuga, but where is goodness? The only thing that's good is a few, maybe, rabbits in Tivoli Park. Everything else is bad in Kali Yuga. And even Tivoli Park, the rabbits would probably have some kind of psychological problems associating with human beings nowadays. So the only hope is to hear regularly about Krishna, hear from Prabhupada's books. This is where it's all emanating from. Prabhupada, what is he doing? It's coming from Shastra. So these books are so valuable. The temples that Prabhupada built, the instructions that he gave, but ultimately it's all meant to so we can hear peacefully about Krishna, and the essence of all that is the Hare Krishna mantra. The Hare Krishna mantra has all of it in it. But it's presented in a way we can understand how to chant and how to associate with Krishna, and what we should be remembering when we chant Hare Krishna. It's all expanded. The name, form, quality, and pastimes are the name, beginning with the name, and everything is there, but it's expanded in Srimad Bhagavatam. Therefore, when Brahma heard the flute, from his ears, out came Gayatri Mantra. And Gayatri Mantra is the source of the creation of the whole universe. So, some spiritual sound vibration can actually, everything is coming from it. So, therefore we should take shelter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and the holy name, as presented by persons who are actually experiencing what's in these books, who's experiencing the holy name. And even if we don't hear directly from Prabhupada, even if we hear indirect from those who are some degree via media to Prabhupada in these books, then we'll also become benefited. And if we have some faith, we hear with attention, then Krishna, the sound vibration it may not be as powerful as Prabhupada's, but because of our sincerity, Krishna will reveal it to us. He'll reveal himself in the sound vibration, even more than the speaker is saying. So I'll stop there. Thank you. Any questions or comments? I hope that wasn't too confusing. Yes.
So it says here that generally people hear from unauthorized persons. Such unauthorized persons may be very learned by academic qualifications, but because they do not follow the principles of devotional service, hearing from them becomes a sheer waste of time. Sometimes the texts are interpreted fashionably to suit their own purpose. I want to ask that sometimes we hear from devotees that they interpret the text to suit their own purposes. Does that mean that they don't respect they don't follow the principles of devotional services?
Well, there are many principles of devotional service. It's not like there's one or two principles and they don't. No, obviously they don't follow that principle of devotional service. That. In other words, there are devotees especially who have heard and following a spiritual teacher who's bona fide in the line of succession. They imbibe some of the instructions and others they don't know about, probably. They're not so aware of it, or they're not so serious about it, or they don't accept them. So to that extent, they're not going to be, their ability to help themselves and others is diminished. Therefore, the more, for instance, one of the qualities of Uttama Adhikari, he's imbibed, he's assimilated the knowledge in a book such as the Bhagavad Gita. He doesn't give some interpretation on one part, but he's understood everything. Everything in the Bhagavad Gita to him reveals Krishna in his different aspects. Now someone else may read Bhagavad Gita and accept part of it, but they don't understand, or they don't accept other parts of it. They may even accept Krishna, but they don't accept all the aspects of Krishna. You know, just like I said, one who understands, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, one who sees the super soul within all bodies, within the destructible body with the soul, who knows neither the soul nor the super soul within the destructible body is ever destroyed, he actually sees. So sometimes we see that and sometimes we don't see that. And sometimes we understand. Sometimes we understand how Krishna is equal everywhere, and sometimes we don't understand it. We forget, and we think this is some body I'm talking to. You know, independent body who's causing me problems. We don't think, oh, Krishna has arranged it. I'm going to be faced with this situation because that's of his desire or our past deeds. We forget about it. And therefore our conception is not within the authorization of the scripture. We have our own, we've accepted some other conception of life. So it's very easy to do that. We have so many conceptions. We're going from, sometimes we come to class, it's probably the best opportunity when we're engaged in hearing class or reading or chanting, so that we don't accept every conception that's coming to our mind. And other things, you know, we're so attached to, we hold on to them so tightly, it's almost like we've taken them for granted as part of our existence. We're not very easy to give it up. It's like you put your finger in the hand of a little baby, it closes. It's really hard to get it out. So it's variety. Does that make sense?
How do we judge to conclude that somebody is respecting the principles of devotional service so that we can hear from them?
Which principle?
Principles, the ones that
all
are...
of them.
I don't know, the ones that are mentioned here in the verse.
You might as well go to a cave somewhere. Unless you're a pure devotee like Srila Prabhupada. That's the very definition of a pure devotee. They've imbibed all the principles of devotional service. So which ones? Well, they should, as it says in the beginning of the Bhagavatam, in order to sit on the Bhagavatam, you have to follow the principles, you have 4 regular principles. And you have to have understood, you know, these different scriptures. For us, it's the Bhagavad Gita, Nectar of Devotion, Chaitanya Charitamrita. We have to repeating them. That's the qualification. Now, how qualified the person is, that we probably, unless we're super qualified, and we actually see the soul and the super soul, and we see perfectly the modes of material nature, we're not going to understand perfectly. The Prabhupada says that in the Nectar of Instruction, text number 6, that to understand, if we're Kanesa Adhikari, he doesn't know what's going on. He sees mostly everything from the point of view of his own, of the conceptions under the modes. And a Madhyama Adhikari, he can discriminate at least who's actually acting in devotion, who Krishna is, who's acting in devotion, who's an elevated devotee, who's reached some purity in devotion, and who's not acting at all in devotional service. He can discriminate between these things. And the pure devotee, he sees he sees everything perfectly. Everything is completely under Krishna's control. Everyone, in their own way, is serving Krishna, perhaps not out of devotion, but nothing is independently of Krishna. And therefore he understands that every living entity is Krishna's eternal servant, and his only business is to serve Krishna and his devotees. So he's servant of everyone. Intelligently, of course, because Krishna guides him how to do that. But at least when we're not we should at least act in the Madhyama Adhikari platform. Even if we're not situated permanently in it, steadily, at least we should try to see through the eyes of Scripture. So that's how we discriminate, through the eyes of Scripture. But even if we see some fault or some problem, then we respect the devotees within the mind. If we become disturbed by the problems we're seeing, then that's material. It means that we're not really seeing things properly. And if we appreciate whatever they're doing that's right, and become undisturbed by what they're doing is wrong, that's called the Madhyama Adhikari platform. That's the platform we should act on.
But we should not hear from them, because here in the verse it's about hearing. From whom to hear, or you waste your time.
Well, if someone is not following the regular principles, he gets on the Vyasasana with a bottle of beer in his hand. I wouldn't hear from them. If someone has his girlfriend on the Vyasasana, it's probably not proper. So other than that, it may be our own prejudice rather than what the actual qualifications of the person to hear. If they're just repeating the message as it is, and they're following the principles, then we can hear from them. They may not be perfect. They may not, but still we can hear from them. As a matter of fact, we'll probably if we try to hear from them with understanding, with knowledge, not just blindly, we'll probably make more advancement because we'll become more tolerant, more appreciative. That, the person is not very advanced, but he's trying at least to convey the message of Krishna. And if someone is proud and they're giving the Bhagavatam class, whatever, then we try not to criticize them within our mind and understand that, this, at least they may be proud, they may have so many disqualifications, but at least they're talking about Krishna. So try to find something good in it. And then we'll become purified. Because generally speaking, when we find something bad in what people are saying, it's because we have the same quality as ourselves. They resonate with our own problems. Is that right?
Partially.
I don't expect one. Anyhow, we're all working on it. Good. Any other questions? Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. You said, if I catch up correctly, that the Nama Parad, with chanting of Nama Parad, our anarthas increase?
Yeah, of course.
So if it's so, then what's the chance of beginner having to elevate themselves by chanting?
Associate with devotees who aren't committing aparads and hearing from them. And then therefore devotional service. If one had performed devotional service in their previous lifetime, sometimes Krishna gives them a big lift so they can start from where they left off. So therefore a lot of people, they're seemingly coming, but they get a big lift at first. So they don't start from zero, they start from some other platform that he left off in. But if you're starting from zero, it's a gradual process, a lot to get rid of. But the holy name is so powerful that if it's heard from devotees who are following the principles, who are following the process, but to speak of the actual pure devotees, then there's a big lift from hearing the holy name. It's like taking the elevator. Of course, one may not hear very well, but still, the atmosphere created will give one a lot of experience in Krishna consciousness. Someone like Prabhupada, he walks into a room and everyone feels that they're in Vaikuntha. Obviously, that's a big lift.
So we say to the beginners, chant, Chetodarpana Marjanam, but actually, what actually helps them a lot is to be in association with pure devotees. This is actually what lifts them up from Namaparad.
Well, hear from the pure devotees.
Hear them speak, hear them chant, hear them do kirtans.
The pure, all these devotees, they're all manifestations of Prabhupada's mercy. Not just one person. And if they're acting under the internal energy, so all the devotees. And then, of course, if someone is particularly absorbed in following Prabhupada and connected with the Parampara, they especially help in proportion.
And their chanting helps them to be connected to the process, at least, even if it's an.
Well, if you're connected and you experience some tushanti or some satisfaction or some ramanti, some ecstasy, then you want more. Lalita Govinda serves out ice cream and it tastes good, they come back for seconds. Isn't that right? So we're attracted by happiness, by taste, by experience. That's why we want it. It's not that in the spiritual world everyone's tied down with some kind of mystic power. They want to stay there because they're in ecstasy. They're in complete love with Krishna. They don't want to go anywhere else. Similarly with here, the higher the taste, the less likely we want to get some other taste.
And you said, Maharaj, if you hear from pure devotees, our faith increases, so then faith in the holy name increases, then the chanting increases. So actually it's all connected.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Experiencing a higher taste, one becomes fixed in consciousness. Anything else? Wala Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Gaur Premanande.